Turn It On Again from Genesis. And for those of you who may not be familiar that much with early Genesis, Genesis started, their heyday in the beginning when there was Peter Gabriel in the band was in the 1970s. And they were one of the original progressive rock bands, very adventurous, very daring, with harmonies, time signatures, all that kind of stuff. And then, when they got pared down to just the three of them, with Phil Collins, Mike Rutherford, and Tony Banks, Phil Collins' sort of pop sensibilities really started to permeate, the band. And any of that album of Invisible Touch that came out in the mid 80s, 86 maybe. And that thing was just I think it had 5 or 6 singles on it, that is not my favorite period of Genesis. That's when they really just went pop. And I actually like the time period of the early 80s, between say 1980 and 83. And the reason why is I think they had a nice balance in that time period in their songs of, the pop concept, but also still with the progressive rock elements. There's a lot of interesting things that were going on in those tunes. And they also had some cool stuff, they'd bring in a horn section, on tunes and things, and have a almost Motown element to some of the stuff. We'll take a look at one of the songs from that time period today, Turn It On Again. And man, undoubtedly this was written on keyboards by Tony Banks. And it's a real study in how you can layer different triads over a static bass note, okay? So the very first thing in the song is that we hear this sort of B note being pedaled on the guitar by Mike Rutherford. And then he doubles it with bass pedals, synth bass pedals. And you're waiting for something to happen, right? And you think, okay, maybe it's going to be this, a B chord. Or you think maybe it'll do something like this. To an E chord, real obvious. We get the farthest thing from that. All of a sudden, just. So the first chord is a C sharp major chord against a B. Now, when you hear a chord like that, major chord with the flat 7 of it in the bass, by itself, it sounds very jarring to the ear because it's taken out of context. But, if I had a chord progression where I was playing a C sharp to a B in the bass, we all know this type of thing, right? It doesn't sound jarring there. It sounds like you are very familiar with it. But in this case, on its own, not so much. And that's called the Lydian sound. If you're not sure how modes work and so on. So what you're getting there, if you assume that the B note is the root, right? And we are basically in the key of B in the song, but loosely speaking, because we're moving all over the harmonic spectrum. So if I take the notes of a C sharp major chord and add it to the B scale, see that E sharp note, also known as F? That's the sound of the Lydian mode. It's that raised 4th degree of the scale. Okay. From there, half step up in the right hand to D major. So now that, if you put that all together, B, D, F sharp, A by itself, that's a B minor 7, right? I can play the Dorian mode on that. Okay, that's just the first two chords. So we get into the main piano riff here. An E chord, root position, to an A chord, second inversion. Back to E, all over the B. Finally to a B chord. Then to its 5 chord, F sharp major chord. F sharp, A sharp, C sharp. And you see, when you do that, when you take a 5 chord and you put it on top of whatever the 1 chord is, it doesn't sound like an F sharp chord. It sounds like you're making that a B chord of some kind, which would be a B major 9. Let's see what that is. A B major would be what? B, D sharp, F sharp. A B major 7, same notes, but add an A sharp. If I went and did one more note, C sharp, that's literally a B major 9. The C sharp is the 9th note of the scale. If I just left the B note out in the right hand, I don't need it because it's in the left hand. The only other note I'm missing is the 3rd, which is a D sharp. Now, there it is with that D sharp down there. You see how that's very sort of muddy sounding in a way? I mean, it's rich and it's full, maybe a little too full, right? Take that D sharp out. Wow, that really just opened it up. And that's the key to that sound. So, and you see, that's the other thing about that. Now, even though I said we're in the key of B, right there, one of those chords is not in the key of B, the A chord, right? So we're starting on the 4 chord to the flat 7 chord, back to the 4. Huh. That's a lot of tension right there. Resolve. Openness. But you see, that's the top notes of the chords. That's a very singable melody, and that's the key to it. Now, on this next little bit, even though we just changed keys now, but just that by itself, I guess because of the rhythm aspect of it, and it's just like a group of 3 notes close together, like the first 3 notes of a scale, right? It makes it singable, and there's that little melodic rhythm in there too. So if I did it like this on just one note, yeah, that rhythm ties it in to your ear as well. The top notes are that, but now the chords are G, A, G, D in second inversion, A, G, all against a B note. Wow. Now, G over B is no mystery. We hear that all the time. Here's a G chord. Playing G's over B's. That should be pretty familiar sounding, right? But not this way. Not when you come straight from this. And also, it's a half step above that F sharp chord that we had. Yeah, right? And that's the main theme, right, of the song. You know, and not to mention that when we get into the groove now, where the drums come in, The way I like to count this, it's a 4-measure pattern, but it's a measure of 4, a measure of 2, a measure of 4, and a measure of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Okay. You can find other subdivisions of how you want to count it. That's how I like to count it. Okay. That's going to go 3 times through the verse, that little pattern. Remember how we moved up a half step from F sharp to G? Well, we're going to do that now in the next part of the verse in the left hand, going from B up to a C. So we had finished with this. Okay, what's that? The left hand was on a C. The right hand moved up to a D. That's the exact same thing that we did in the very intro of the song, where we were pedaling a B note and we played a C sharp chord. Remember, and I was talking about how it's a B Lydian sound and all that, right? Well, here, if I'm on a C and I play a D chord, well, now that's a C Lydian sound. Because of that F sharp, again, the sharp 4. So it's a D over C. Then he does go down to a C. To an F chord over C. To a G chord over C. And again, that G chord, remember G is the 5 of C, right? Remember before we talked about if you take the 5 chord, you put it on top of like the 1 in the bass, you get like a major 9 chord. That's what I'm getting here. C major 9, it doesn't have the 3rd in it though, because I've got a B, which is the major 7. I've got a D, which is the 9th. I've got a G, which is the 5th of C, right? Now, when you write this out for like a chord name, you wouldn't write C major 9, no 3rd or something like that. No, you just write it as slash chords, meaning G over C. So anyway, so from now B flat over C to F over C. Okay, there's only a little bit left. Now we're going back to B in the left hand, and we're going to go from a B chord, second inversion, to an A chord, second inversion. Right? To an F sharp minor 7 chord. Okay, and the way he does it is this. Okay, C sharp, E, A. And then this little melody on the top. A, G sharp, A, B, C sharp. You see? So, it's from the B chord. F sharp minor 7. Back to B and A. And then he's got this little B major arpeggio. I think this is my favorite part right here. He's got this. So in the right hand we've got a G chord in first inversion, B, D, G, to a D chord in second inversion, A, D, F sharp. And then you get these hits on a low E. And when you have that G chord over an E, it's like an E minor 7. It makes it, right? Then you get like a D over E. And then right back to that D over C. And and then back to that E, A to B. And then when he gets to the B, he leaves it open. There's no third in it. And he does this cool little and then F sharp minor. So what that little lick is, it's fourths. Start on an F sharp and then add a B to it. E and A. Back to B and F sharp. Up to A and D. E and A. F sharp and B. He's just toggling between those two, and then a A, C sharp, F sharp minor. And, you know, again, when I do these tunes, you know, I write out charts, and this is how, I don't know if you can see that, but, and it's just a chord chart with the time signatures in there, so I can kind of keep my place in the chorus of the song when I'm listening, you know, to the original recording. So check that out. I think it would be good practice to write out lead sheets for yourself. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's breakdown. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel, and there'll be more videos like this to come. Thanks for watching.